welcome to the Monday evening.
Love ball like I do. After Dark's a must listen.
It's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. I've made it back from Villanova, from the main line, in what was a little bit of a disappointing trip there. You know, it's the first time I've seen UConn lose in a long time in person. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Randolph Childress here with me. I have Kenny Frease here with me, and we have a lot to get to on the Wednesday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Illinois lost their best player and still beat the brakes off a good Penn State team. We got to talk about how good Indiana has been without their leading scorer. That's not something I expected to see. Mick Cronin went absolutely nuts last night in the press conference, and there's always something to talk about in the SEC, whether it's Texas A&M coming back to take the lead on Oklahoma here, whether it's Alabama 20-piecing South Carolina on the road. I low-key think Alabama might be the best team that nobody is talking about at that point yet. There's a lot that we're going to get to, but we got to start, guys, in the Big East. Kenny, I need to let you guys talk about this one first. I need you guys to let you guys lean into this one. UConn down by 11 early second half at Villanova, comes all the way back, takes the lead, punch back from Villanova. They're up by 6 with 2 minutes left. UConn gets the ball down by 1. Final possession. Alex Caravan, they're All-American, heads to the line, 2-time national champion, has never in his career at UConn, missed two straight free throws, bricks them both. UConn loses 68-66 on the road in Finneran Pavilion. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Obviously, you lose McNeely, so you're losing 14 points a game, and I think that's something that, you know, they all know that they have to fill that. They have to fill that role somewhere, right? The story of the game obviously is going to be the free throws being missed, but when I was watching that game, throughout most of the game, I felt like, man, UConn's going to lose, and that's not normally something that I think when I'm watching UConn play basketball. So, you know, I think that you have Dixon, who is just like they could ride him all the way to the NCAA tournament. I mean, he's that good of a player, and when he's able to put the team on his back like that, and then get help from Poplar and I can't think of his name right now. Brickus, yeah. Brickus, yeah. When you're able to lean on him and have those guys come in and get buckets and do things that they need to do to win the game, I mean, it's they're a tough team to beat, especially at home.
They deserve to win,
Randolph?
right? I mean, I thought they deserved to win the game. I mean, they were controlling the game. I thought not even the free throws, because I didn't think it was a foul. He shouldn't even been to the line. I thought their defensive effort, the last 3 plays, man, was huge for Villanova. They deserved to win the game. I mean, the officials made the call, and immediately I texted out Chet. I was like, ball don't lie. I didn't think he'd miss both. But I was honestly, I was hoping he'd miss one just for overtime. I was hoping he'd miss one. I didn't think he'd miss both of them. But listen, man, Villanova was the tougher team. And UConn knows they're going to get everybody's best shot. But credit to Villanova, man, and credit to Cal Neptune. Like that guy, you know, we all drug him early on. You know, early in the year, everybody was crushing those guys. You know, crushing Neptune, and he responded, and his team responded. They needed to get this win, and they got it. So I think it's more about Villanova winning the game and about Cal Neptune and his squad than UConn. They're going to have games like this. They lost to a good team. I mean, you know, you can make the argument. It's not even an argument. I think Eric Dixon was the best player on the floor. Didn't shoot it great, but he made plays when he had to, and he's obviously a matchup nightmare. So credit to Villanova for getting it done.
Yeah, Villanova has now run 3 in a row. They are 4-1 in the Big East, and they have won 8 of their last 9 games since a 3-4 start to the season, which I think that turnaround is not something that we're quite talking about enough, right? Like the win over Cincinnati was a big one. The only loss that they have was a close game on the road at Creighton, which is never going to be an easy place to go and play. And now you have a win over a UConn team at home, which, this is the kind of victory that can start making some people forget about the fact that there's that St. Joe's loss and there's that Columbia loss. I know they lost to Virginia, but it's Virginia on a neutral. Virginia is still Virginia. Is this, Kenny, do you think this is a team that can be a tournament team, right? This is the kind of resume win that they needed. But are they, when you watch them, let's just go strictly eye test instead of profile. It's too early to start talking about profiles. We have our bracket show coming up January 20th. That's when we can start talking about profiles. Eye test. Is this a tournament team?
In my opinion, yes, because of Dixon. Like, I really think that he's able to carry this team. I brought it up before, but I had a note down here. Nova's up by 6 at the end of the half, and Dixon, he was barely a part of the team in the first half, and all of a sudden, the first 10 minutes of the second half, he comes out and has 11 points, and it's like a different game. So I think, it's a lot to put on one guy, but I think if you're going to have to put it on a guy, Dixon's the guy that you want to do that to.
Yeah, Randolph, what is the most impressive part about this turnaround for you for Villanova?
Again, I don't know if it's anything in particular that stands out with them. I think Eric Dixon is the best player on the floor most nights when he walks out there. I think the only thing that hurts this team is if he settles. I think when he settles from 3, obviously he was shooting the lights out of it before coming into to tonight's game. But I think in certain games like this in the Big East, he's going to have to pick matchups, right, and be more exact in how he attack it. Like set ball screens, if they switch, go inside. He's got to attack the paint a little bit more. I think he's settled. I think, first half of his shots in the first half was just from behind the three-point line. They were 30-footers. He's bailing you out with that. And I don't think it's just necessarily for him. I think his teammates, for the rest of the team, they need him to be involved in the action so they can score. So if he plays more inside out, I think he can wield this team to the NCAA tournament. But it's going to be tough in the Big East. But in matchups like this, he took care of business against UConn. Again, he was the best player on the floor. So when you have that, you always got a chance.
Yeah, if they can get to 12-8 in the league, and they can take care of business against the likes of St. John's and Marquette at home as well, then I think we have a real conversation to have about them potentially being a tournament team. And if they get to the tournament, man, that'd be a really impressive thing considering where they were at the start of the year. I was able to catch up with Kyle Neptune after this game, and we talked a little bit about this turnaround, this performance, and what it means for this group moving forward. Now, welcome onto the field of 68 After Dark. Kyle Neptune, Villanova head coach, big win over UConn. What'd you see at the end there? You got Eric Dixon had a big 3, Luka Poplar had a big 3. How'd you guys close this one out?
I thought we got some stops towards the end. I thought we did a good job defensively in the first half. I thought we started the second half pretty good defensively, and give UConn a lot of credit. They're a big-time program, big-time coach. They got big-time players over there. They made a run. And then I give our guys a lot of credit too. They took a couple of hits, took a lot of hits, lost the lead, and then just kept coming towards the end and got some stops when we needed to. And then we know we got some guys who can make shots in big time moments. Eric Dixon's one of them. Obviously, Luka Poplar's one of them as well. So we don't really worry about scoring. We need to be a program that gets stops. Especially in the rough and tumble Big East. So I was proud that our guys were able to do that.
That was the thing that stood out to me is you guys were up by, I think it was 11 at one point.
Yeah.
UConn comes back.
Yeah.
They get the lead on that solo ball 3.
Yeah.
And you guys immediately go on a 10-2 run and kind of didn't put it away, but you took the lead. You're up by 6 with 2 minutes left. So you got to feel good in that spot.
Yeah. You just know that they're not gonna just lay down and say, all right, you guys got it with a minute, 2 minutes, whatever it is. So, we just told our guys we just got to keep coming, keep getting stops. And as a coach, it's kind of out of your hands a little bit. You can tell your guys all you want, what you want them to do. It's on them to go on the court and do it. And I thought our guys came together and got it done.
You guys didn't have the greatest start to the year, and it's easy for a team that loses a couple of games early, especially in this day and age, to kind of have the thing go off the rails. And it didn't happen for you guys. You're 4-1 in the Big East now. This kind of win puts you in the NCAA tournament picture clearly. So, what's changed? How have you gotten this thing going?
I thought we were just patient in the beginning of the year. We had a lot of new guys. We got some guys in different roles, and we just had to try to understand how we needed to play. There's a lot of long nights as a staff, as hanging out together and just getting better as a complete program. And I give our guys a lot of credit. Like you mentioned, it's not easy to go through tough times, but I think they either break you or make you better. And our guys, to their credit, have gotten a lot better over the last couple weeks here.
Have they been kind of feeling that pressure?
I don't think so. We try to just focus on the next best action, and we talk to our guys about, all right, we're going into a film session. Let's lock in for this film session. Going to our practice. This should be our best practice of the year, and just stack those up. But again, as a coach, you can tell your guys and ask your guys to do whatever they want. They got to choose to do it. And so I give those guys a lot of credit.
Last thing I got for you, Eric Dixon. I don't know if we heard Dan call him the best offensive player in college basketball.
I believe so.
You got a platform here. Give us a pitch. Why is he the best player in college basketball? Promote him.
I think that I personally, I've been around for a long time. I look at like the last guy that's like him was like the McDermott kid from Creighton. Other than him, with that size, the way he shoots it, post up, mid row, whatever you want to do, he's just a tough out. He's a tough out. So, I think he's passing.
It's nice to have a player like that on your team.
I'm very, very excited to have him on our team. And as good as he is as a player, he's a way better person. And now he's also become an amazing leader for our program. Such a great pillar for all those guys to look at as like, if you keep working, what you can be. This guy's a player that redshirted his first year in college basketball, shed weight, had to work on his right hand, had to work on defense, had to work on shooting, and just got better each year, came back with something new in his game each year. So those are the guys you root for. He's a guy that, you look back and you're like, man, this kid did it the right way, and he deserves everything he gets.
Hell of a win, man.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm happy for Kyle, man. They needed that win. He needed that win. The program needed that win, and it's nice to see Villanova kind of getting back on the right track here. I do believe that they have kind of found something here, and they're going to be able to find a way to get this thing rolling forward. From a UConn perspective, RC, and then I want your take on this too, Kenny. Are you worried about them? Because I came out of this thinking, especially the last two games, without Liam McNeely, to me, long term, getting Jalen Stewart the minutes and the reps and a chance to be able to play 32 minutes in a game like this, in a role like that, and have that success and confidence. And then Aiden Mahaney on Sunday against Providence won them that game in the second half. If they're going to make a run in the tournament, they need those two dudes to play at this level and being able to get them those opportunities and kind of force feed them minutes. Maybe isn't the worst thing in the world if McNeely's going to end up coming back.
He's going to come back, and you know what he's going to do when he comes back. And it just adds another offensive weapon. I think Mahaney production from the bench would be a key for them. His ability to knock down shots. If he can ever live up to the expectation that they have for him coming in, if he settles into that role, then UConn can be UConn again. And they're going to defend. They're going to compete. We know they're well coached. They'll be right there in the end. So I wouldn't worry about them. I just think as they get these reps, these guys get these reps, and when it matters, this is a team we're going to see in the tournament. They're going to have a top 3 seed, and we'll see where they're healthy, if they're healthy, and hoping that they got all the guys like Mahaney playing at their best. If they are, then I'm not counting out UConn.
Kenny?
Yeah, I think that it really is it's how the player takes it, the guy that's getting those minutes because there's somebody out. Does he take that and say, I'm going to make the most of this, or is he going to sit there and say, like, well, I'm not going to have these minutes when McNeely comes back? I think that's a player-by-player thing. But the thing about UConn for me, outside of all of that stuff, is that when teams play against them, they always keep tension on the rope. And Kyle Neptune said something about it, how they're not just going to lay down for you in the last minute or two. It feels like they always have that punch to come back that makes you think like, oh, well, we got to get this defensive stopper. We got to get a bucket here. And that's something that's come from being a winning program for a long time, but especially in the last 2 years. So I don't really think that I'm nervous about UConn. They have a lot of experience. They have a lot of good players. Obviously, they're a winning program, and that's that culture is something that in college basketball can make a good team great. And I think that that's kind of the position that they're in right now.
Yeah,
And
the way
credit
that
to
I
those
look at
guys,
it,
man. They're playing up to a championship expectations, man. When you know the backup guys were part of that. Caravan was not the top guy. He was not the main guy. He's just stepping into a leadership role and a role for a team that's a back-to-back champion, man. Like we've never seen this, like a back-to-back champion team, and then the third year, you're still good enough to compete and be in conversation for a national championship. And when you got a lot of guys who didn't contribute, trying to live up to that is a problem. And I think that's what Hurley's managing right now. It's like he's got to be fair to his guys, and he's also that's why he's got to make comments like, "Hey, if you're feeling bad about yourself, look at our rings." There's some truth to that because everybody's crushing them and comparing them to those teams that was national championships, man. And we've never seen a team win back to back and then come back a third year and be this good and be considered for legitimately for a third title. We've never seen it, and you wouldn't expect to see that in today's times of all. So they're living up to expectations set by a program. They all know what they signed up for. They got to be healthy. They got to get some guys from the bench. Mahaney playing more consistent to give them a legitimate shot. But they're chasing history, man, and it's going to be hard as hell. And you got to be Hurley knows it better than anybody, man, how you got to deal with this team riding the emotional roller coaster that this team is going to be on all year long.
yeah, I've been telling people all year that I think that the big key has been, and I think you've seen a little bit of a change in Dan, is it's not perfection that you're striving for. The last 2 years, you're going out there and you're saying, we're going to do what we do, and you're not going to be able to stop it because we are better than you. All that matters is us perfecting the stuff that we do because we're going to change how you play. And this year, they don't have those guys. This year, it's more of there's got to be a teaching element to it for Dan with some of these younger players. And I think that you kind of saw, especially when they got back from Maui, you saw a little change that mindset from, I am expecting a level of a level of perfection to, all right, I have to get these guys to the point that they can compete at that level. And I think that's when you saw their season kind of flip in terms of worried about them. As long as McNeely gets back and he's back to being the guy that he was for the 3 weeks before he got hurt, they're going to be just fine. And having Jalen Stewart play at this level and getting Aiden Mahaney capable of doing the things that he did, like against Providence or in the first half against Baylor, they'll be just fine, man. I'm not going to sweat out losing on the road because the winningest player in college basketball missed 2 free throws, which he has literally never done in his life before. Let's talk about the top of the Big East overall, because it's really interesting there. We thought for a while, Kenny, that it was going to be UConn and Marquette and then everybody else. And then all of a sudden, Georgetown had Marquette on the ropes last night, and Villanova just knocked off UConn. And St. John's, with all of the shooting issues that they have, are sitting there at 4-1 as well. And we still have, I still think that Xavier's a threat, right? They got to get some things figured out. Creighton is still Creighton. What do you make of the top of this league, specifically Villanova and Georgetown, and kind of the lead that those two programs have made?
So in the beginning of the year, one of my first episodes that I did with you guys, I talked about Georgetown being, I thought that they were going to be a better team this year. It's a lot of turnover. You don't really know what you're going to get from the guys, but a lot of these guys that are coming into Georgetown were the second, third option on the teams that they transferred from. But, Sorber, Mack, and Peavy, the last few games with Epps out, they've really been impressive. Now, obviously one of those games was against Xavier, which they're having their troubles right now. But I think if you're able to put those guys, when you get Epps back, I think that they have a solid 4 guys that are able to score the ball and give you what you need to win games. And I think that, they haven't had any bad losses, like as far as losing to teams that are ranked far below them. But if they're able to steal a couple games against teams that maybe they shouldn't beat on paper, but they're able to steal a couple of those and make all the games that they're, quote unquote underdogs supposed to lose, make those games close or keep them within the range of what people think they're supposed to be. I think that they are going to be able to put together a resume that could possibly be a tournament basketball team.
Hey, look, the Hoyas are back. I'll say it, Randolph. Yeah. The Hoyas are back.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe in Ed Cooley. I mean, we talk trash wondering about him, man, but, in the sense of wondering if they were going to fix it this year, and he did. We thought maybe it'd be next year, and Ed Cooley did it this year. I don't think really are any of us surprised that Ed Cooley has Georgetown playing well, and they're going to be, if they're healthy, which is not everybody can say if they're healthy, but again, he just finds a way, man. He's a hell of a coach. He finds a way. I know people in Providence, they give him crap all the time about it. We know what that's about. But listen, man, Ed Cooley's the real deal. I'm not surprised at Georgetown. I'm for this league though. My curiosity is just who can take the show on the road and win road games of those few teams. I don't think Xavier's challenging at the top. St. John concerns me with their lack of shooting. There's just not a dominant. I don't think there's any dominant team that's just going to run away. There's no UConn the way it's been the last couple of years, even with Marquette. I don't think Marquette's as good as it's been the last couple of years. So I think it'll go down to the wire, and health, to me, will be the deciding factor on who wins the Big East.
Yeah, that's 100% what it is. If you give, I'll say this about Georgetown. If you give Ed Cooley a point guard that could score, a 5-man that could do work on the block, and a couple of wings out there that can knock down shots and will play some defense, he's going to find a way to win basketball games. Last year, they didn't have the 5 that they needed. This year, they got Thomas Sorber. He's a difference maker, man. He's the real deal. Malik Mack has adjusted to the Big East level well. When they get Jaden Epps back, they got 2 guys that can do that. And then you got a couple role players. They don't have the depth that they probably need to really make a run at winning this thing. But I think that I tend to lean towards them finding a way to get into the tournament, landing enough wins. Like they get UConn on Saturday at home, and UConn's coming off of this loss to Villanova, and they don't have Liam McNeely. Like they win that game, that could put them in a spot where they are a tournament. You at least have to have that conversation. Look, let me ask you this, Kenny, because Xavier is a team. I thought that they were a top 15, top 20 kind of a team coming into the season, right? And even without Traore, I still think that the pieces are there for them to be able to do it. They had a couple of tough road losses at the start, and it feels like this thing is just kind of snowballed on them a little bit. You know what I mean? Like they lost some games, they're kind of getting down on themselves, and now that feels like, especially last night against St. John's, feels kind of like they're now just going through the motions as a result. How do you turn this thing around?
I mean, honestly, I think the way that you turn it around is these guys got to start learning how to play basketball together. It's 5 different entities at all times playing basketball. I mean, like, it's frustrating to watch from a fan perspective because, obviously that's my team. I'm never going to give up on them, but it's really, really frustrating when I watch them play against St. John's and they gave up 50 rebounds. 50. Zuby did whatever he wanted all night. And I know that you're missing Traore. Hughley's not playing the best. Fremantle was the one positive thing of the night for Xavier. I mean, he played well, and he played tough. But the thing that made Xavier so good for so long was the players that were coming there came to Xavier because of the idea of Xavier. Like, if you go to like a North Carolina or Kansas or Duke or whatever it is, Kentucky, it would be really difficult to be the best team that ever played at one of those schools. But because Xavier has, they have never made that Final Four, the first team that's able to do it, you're going to be remembered forever in the Xavier lore. It's just like there's always that feeling of one-upping the team before you. And that was what we felt when I played there. And now in this NIL era, you don't have guys that are coming in as freshmen and learning from the seniors and like all of that history and the feeling of what it is to be a Xavier basketball player. And I think that it's hurting Xavier right now. And a lot of people want to point to the money side of things and whatever. I think we have really good players. I don't think that more money necessarily would solve this problem. I think that it's just the fact that these guys don't know what it means to be a Xavier basketball player yet outside of Fremantle and Hunter. And I think for me, that's the biggest problem with this team is that they're not playing together and it doesn't look like they're having fun. And if you're not having fun, why are you playing basketball? Like I understand the money side of things, but the money side comes from having fun and playing the game and getting better. If your only goal is money, then I got bad news for about 99% of the people that are playing. I mean, it's a tough way to play the game to just think about this like extrinsic value in money. Like I can't stand the way that Xavier's playing right now. And honestly, like RC, last time we talked after the TCU loss, you were like, you didn't come down on him. Like they made some bad plays at the end of that game. And I can handle that as a fan and as an ex-player. I understand how that happens, but they completely gave up against St. John's. They didn't give any effort in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the game. And for me, that is the reason that I'll get mad at players on this Xavier basketball team.
Because they're losing confidence. And what happens is they finding ways to lose games. Like I said that about the TCU game because they had the TCU game and they gave it away. There's nobody on this team right now that's making the game easier for anyone else, and they're struggling. They're back. Their guards. There's no consistency with their guard play. Sean's just trying to figure it out with this group, and I don't think any of us is doubting Sean as a coach and what he is. He's a hell of a coach, but they're struggling, and I don't know if they can figure it out. And confidence is a fragile thing, and when I don't know what the injury was with Fremantle. That was seeming like he was supposed to be out for a significant amount of time. He comes back and then he plays great. Luckily for them, because if they lose him for any significant amount of time, I don't know how they'll win games at that point. But there's no one making anybody else better. They're struggling right now. Their confidence is fragile. This team seems to be hanging on by the threads, man, and they need to get a win, and they need to get a win badly.
Well, and the odd thing was Fremantle goes down and they go play UConn, take them to overtime. And you're like, oh, well, maybe, these guys are finding ways to fit in and fit into these new roles and all this stuff. And then you think, well, when we get Fremantle back, that's going to be what takes us over the top. Kind of like what you're saying with McNeely. That's going to be what takes us over the top. We got these guys that are putting in more minutes, getting some more time. And it's just, he came back and it's just like, and this has nothing to do with Fremantle at all. I think this has to do with just the guys learning to come together. But watching them on offense is almost painful. The ball doesn't move very much. They get into one-on-one situations. They're taking shots with 2 seconds to go on the shot clock. They're barely offensive rebounding. I mean, they had 7 offensive rebounds against St. John's. Like, that's terrible. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. That St. John's game was embarrassing.
Yeah, and what I will say about this, about Xavier, is this. You lose last possession or last couple of possessions at TCU, right? Same thing happens at Cincinnati. Same thing happens at UConn. Same thing happens against Marquette. In a game, I'll say it, I know a lot of people disagree with me. That was ridiculous that there was no foul call at the end with that trip. That was
they just don't know how to win yet.
Right.
That was insane. Yeah.
They're digging themselves in a hole that I don't know if they're going to be able to dig, if their talent will allow them to dig themselves out of. This team just doesn't know how to win yet. Whatever the reasons are, I don't know, but they don't know how to win yet. They're in games. They just don't know how to figure out a way to win games. And there's no one, there's not an elite player there that can just hit the switch and change that.
Yep, and that can really just kind of, once those just keep piling on, like, I get it, man. You gotta fight through it, but I get it. That can be tough for anybody. Listen, we got to get to the Big Ten. We got to talk about Illinois here. We got to talk about Indiana, and we got to talk about Mick Cronin, who decided that last night was going to be the night that he sounded off on everything that is wrong with UCLA basketball. That's coming up next. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description. Welcome back to the Wednesday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Randolph, Childress, Kenny Frease. Guys, we got to head out to Champaign because before this game started, in warmups, Kasparis Yakashonis, a potential top 5 pick in the draft, the best player on Illinois, one of the best freshmen in college basketball, hurt his forearm. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I don't think I haven't seen any reporting on what the actual injury was. I don't know how serious it is. It doesn't seem that serious, but he hurt his forearm. He wasn't going to be able to play, and he's going up against a team that has 2 ball hawks in the backcourt, specifically Ace Baldwin at Penn State. And I was kind of worried about it, man. I was like, this could end up being something where, Illinois doesn't have their point guard. How are they going to deal with this? The ball pressure, Mike Rhodes defense, Penn State. And they laughed at me. And I look like an idiot right now as a result of it. That's not uncommon. I look like an idiot a lot, RC. But this Illinois team, every single time I watch them play, I get more and more impressed. Are they the most dangerous team in college basketball that nobody is talking about?
Not for me, because I said they were the best team in the Big Ten. So, what they're, playing this way without KJ was impressive. But on the other side, Penn State, Ace Baldwin was ineffective the first half. He obviously had the back injury and then didn't play the rest of the second half. But a dominant performance either way. I mean, this just looked like from the opening tip, they were just the better team. They were physical. This is a team I expect to win the Big Ten. I think they're the best team by far. If they stay healthy, keep everybody there. It seems to be a common theme with everybody with these early season injuries. But right now, I think they're the most talented team. And when they're defending and giving the effort on the defensive end of the floor like they did tonight, then I think they're virtually unbeatable.
Kenny?
Man, so I turned the game on. It was 11-11 with 13 minutes to go in the first half, and I looked away for a little bit. I come back. There's like 4 minutes to go in the first half, and it's 39-15. I'm like, what happened here? So then I go. I'm looking at the box score. And the first things that I do when I see a blowout game is I look at rebounds, I look at turnovers, and I look at threes. Right? Illinois ends up winning the rebound battle 57-32. That's like automatically right there. I can tell you the game's going to be a blowout. But then you look at turnovers about the same. Then you look at the 3-point shooting, and Illinois is 10 for 31, which isn't anything crazy, but Penn State goes 2 for 12. I mean, it's like obviously these games happen, right? I think, I don't know, maybe they didn't happen for URC, but for me, there were definitely games where you just come out and something's just not right that day. Your team's not playing well. You're one step slow on defense or whatever it is. I don't think that Illinois is 39 points better than Penn State at the end of the day, but today they were. And, when you come out and you shoot like that, you rebound, you're physical. It's going to be a tough out for Penn State for sure.
Yeah. They remind me, I said this the other day. I didn't realize quite how good they are on the defensive end because they don't really pass the eye test on that. Like they don't have this great shot blocker. They don't force a ton of turnovers. They remind me a little bit of Creighton on that end of the floor in the sense that they're very, very good at running you off the 3-point line. They don't let you get open looks from 3. They can kind of funnel you in to big guys and Morris Johnson and Tomislav Ivicic, who are just kind of big and take up space around the rim. They don't really foul all that much. And, by the way, they also get 77% of their defensive rebounds. Right. So they end possessions. They don't let you get good shots and they don't let you shoot threes and they don't put you on the foul line. Like that's what you're supposed to do as a defense. Maybe they're not blocking a ton of shots or turning the ball over, RC, but like that's what you do as a defense. And then you combine it with the fact that KJ has been one of the most impressive freshmen. You got Tomislav Ivicic out here banging home threes. This lefty, I don't know how those go in. It's not the prettiest shot, but it feels like every single time he shoots it, it goes in. Kyle Boswell has really embraced his role of being a role player. Trey White has been awesome like the last month. I really do believe, and I don't think that I'm overstating things here. When they play Duke in Madison Square Garden on February 22nd, I think there's a real chance that ends up being like a matchup of top 5 teams. Because Duke, I don't know how many losses they're taking in ACC play. They're going to probably be number 1 in the country at that point in the AP poll, just because that's how these things go. And I don't know how many of these games Illinois is going to end up losing. Like they got the look of a team that might roll through the Big Ten here, RC.
Like I said, I don't think they'll lose many. I don't think anybody's beating them at home. I think they're good enough to go on the road. They're physical. We talk about defensively why it is. They're physical. They control the paint with their length and their physicality, and Boswell is just playing. He's not forcing anything. He's not taking bad shots. He's playing like a point guard. He's big. He's physical. We've seen him defend. When he wants to defend, he mangles point guards physically. That's what this team looks
He's
like.
so
They just
strong.
beat Penn State up inside. Man, they're so strong. They beat him up inside as well. Push Penn State around a little bit. And again, let's hope Ace Baldwin gets back and gets to playing back at the level that they're playing at. Because once Penn State couldn't force turnovers and create turnovers, there's just so many guys that can handle the ball. They pass it well. They too many handlers. It's just a really good team, man. This is a really good team, big, physical, strong team, and they're going to be a tough out for anybody.
Yeah, and just real quick for the people listening at home, this is from Jeremy Werner of Illinois Inquirer. Brad Underwood told reporters afterwards that it was just some inflammation and soreness in KJ's left forearm, and that it's not something that should be considered serious long term. I think Illinois is the best team in the Big Ten. I think that Michigan is probably the next best team in that conversation. I think you need to put Purdue there. And Kenny, I'm starting to think that maybe writing off Indiana, maybe we shouldn't. Also, I want to throw Michigan State in that mix too. I probably need to mention that before I get yelled at by anybody. But Indiana has now won 9 of their last 10. They've won 3 in a row in the conference, putting up 84 points, 77 points, 82 points, and doing it without their leading scorer, Malik Reneau. So here's my hot take. I'm putting this out there. We can make this be the YouTube thumbnail.
Uh-oh.
We can make this be the what we post on Twitter. This will be the troll. This is going to be the clickbait. This is what everyone
Jeff.
going. But I truly believe it, Kenny. I truly believe it. Indiana might be better without the guy that's their leading scorer. Is that a crazy thing to say? Because it opens up space. Now Umar Ballo has room to operate. Now he looks like a guy that's worth $1.2 million or whatever he got. Indiana's better without Malik Reneau.
Listen, I'm watching this game, and you know, for me, I'm going straight to the.
That's me putting on brakes right now. That's my.
Hold on, listen. I'm not gonna go crazy and say that, but I'm gonna say that Ballo was. I mean, I'm watching this guy play, and I guarantee you that over the next few weeks, you're gonna have teams all around the country cutting up tape, showing it to their big guys, and saying, "This is how you post up in transition. This is how you get position in the half court." I mean, he's posting guys up at the free throw line in transition, and they got 15 feet to throw him the ball over the top, and he's just laying the ball over the front of the rim. I mean, that's almost impossible to stop with a guy that's as big as he is. And then in the half court, when he's posting up, every single person on defense has to have one eye on him just in case he gets the ball because they need to go help. I mean, I think that tonight, the reason that they were able to play so well was in a large part because of him. I mean, he ends the game 28-8-2. 28 or 23, I can't remember. But
23.
I mean, it was just
23-8.
23-8-2. I mean, for me, like, he was the reason that they were really able to win the game today because of his play down low and opening it up for the guys around the outside.
It's going to be hard for them, man. When you got a low post guy like that it's hard to play like that. And we say what we want. If Luke Goody didn't knock down 4 threes, it's another abysmal shooting performance, and you would say, why would you guard anybody outside the paint? So it's if they can get one guy to step up, whether it's Galloway, whether it's Rice, whoever, Goody, somebody step up and can have a game where they knock down 3 or 4 threes that can help open the paint up for everybody, then I think Indiana can win a lot of games. But the problem is relying on that, knowing that it's going to happen. This team just struggles shooting from the perimeter, and Ballo benefits from that when he has space. So I won't go as far as to say, that without their best leading scorer, I'd say that they're better. But I do think it opened up the paint, and if they can get a guy like Goody or one of these perimeter guys to step up, whether it's Rice, whether it's Galloway, somebody. It can consistently do that, then Indiana will be better for it. But right now, until they get that consistency from the perimeter, I think they're going to make the tournament. I just don't have them being at the top of the Big Ten.
Yeah, look, I do say that a little bit facetiously, but it's just when you're able to, and it's not necessarily the fact that they're making the threes, right? It always sounds weird when I say this, but it makes sense in my own head, and I don't know if you guys agree, but it's having the guys that are a threat to make threes. And when you have Mbako at the 4 and Goody at the 3, with Trey Galloway and Miles Rice. You have 4 guys that your defense has to be aware of. And so when you're kind of moving them around out there, when Renew is out there, you don't have to worry about him. You can just have whoever the 4 is can kind of sag off and make sure that like it's difficult for Umar Bala. When you have Mbako at the 4, that guy's got to be aware of where he is, because if it gets swung, even if he was 0 for 8 and 0 for 5 and 3 tonight in 18 minutes, right? But his presence means that there's going to be space that's created. And I think that's what you need for Indiana to be effective. I mentioned Michigan, guys. I think Michigan is a real threat to make a run in the Big Ten. I don't know if I love them long-term in the tournament because Danny Wolf is so turnover prone and they don't really have a go-to guy and they don't really have a point guard, but they went on the road and they beat up on UCLA last night. And Mick Cronin, as he is wont to do, found a way to be able to make a Michigan blowout win in Pauley Pavilion all about Mick Cronin when he went in his press conference and he had this to say.
But we don't play. We're soft. So don't tell me you want to win. Like, just don't tell me you want to win. We're soft.
Yeah,
Aside from, to be fair to you, obviously they have a unique skill set, the way they shoot the ball. But we're soft. It's crazy, and it's every day. I'm tired of it. It's every day. I have the most energy of anybody at practice every day. I'm upset with everybody in that locker room, my assistant coaches and my players. I don't need to do anything else. I almost got 500 wins. I'm only 53. You think I'm coaching the Lakers? I mean, it's a joke. It's a joke. But yet I come in and I have more passion and energy and pride than everybody in. That's the problem. It's really hard to coach people that are delusional. The hungry dog gets the bone. We got guys that think they're way better than they are. They're nice kids. They're completely delusional about who they are.
There's a lot to get through there. There's a lot to discuss there. I see your face, Kenny. Before I go to you, Randolph, the single most surprising thing there, I had no idea about this. Mick Cronin is only 53 years old. That's shot. I would have bet my entire life savings on him being 60 plus, man. There's no way that you can look at Mick Cronin and you can look at Randolph and you could basically say, there's not all that much different in age there.
Yeah, he got me by a year. You know what? I understand his frustration by calling them soft and everybody and saying some of the guys are delusional. Like, I get that. Like, you allowed Michigan to shoot like 60% from, 61% from the floor and 54 from 3. Like, that's hard to do by yourself, to allow somebody to put up 94 points. Like, for a guy that in a team that's played from, that has a defensive mentality that has it. So I'm cool with that. The only thing I didn't like about his argument or his whatever tirade he went on was when he talked about his voice, him being the loudest one there. Well, more times than not, when you do that, it's you're the loudest voice all the time. It just means you're not delegating. When you talk about your staff and everyone else, that just means that you're doing it all the time, and you're not delegating stuff on those guys. So, other than that, I don't have a problem with anything he said. It's maybe a little bit. He kind of excluded himself a little bit. You obviously would have liked for him to have said, "Man, I need to be better. I need to do better," than saying that. But if you're going to say your staff and kind of throw everybody out and kind of throw your hands back like this is beneath me, that's the way it came off, whether he meant it to sound like that or not. And if you got the loudest voice in the room, it's because you're not delegating and allowing guys to speak up, to do things on their own, to have a voice.
That was my big.
If you don't do that, then shit, you can't come out here and go through all this tyrant saying all that, because obviously that's on you, just like this loss is on you.
Yep, that was my biggest issue with it. Look, he's called out players before. It's worked in the past. Sometimes it hasn't worked. But to say, look, I'm 53 years old. I got 500 wins. I can't do anything wrong. It's all my staff. It's all my players. They keep fucking up. It's not my fault. Like, come on. Kenny, what are we doing here, man?
I actually laughed, man. When I saw it, I laughed, man. I was laughing. I thought it was hilarious when I saw it, but I'm like, come on, man. Come on, Mick.
Yeah, it's going to be like one of those "I'm a man, I'm 40" clips. You remember that? I was like a college football coach or something. I can't remember, but
Mike Gundy, baby. Oklahoma
yeah. Listen,
State.
there's no love lost between me and Mick Cronin. I think he would say the same thing. We do not like each
That's
other.
not
We
your
never
guy?
have.
You mean to tell me
No.
that's not your guy?
We never have ever. Is that whole everything that went down at the Xavier UC game, like all the talk he had after the game, it was whatever. I mean, but for me, somebody that is confident in themselves that they have almost 500 wins doesn't look at the camera and say, what else do I have to do? I got almost 500 wins. Like, you're trying to prove something to somebody. It's probably yourself. It's I think that there's a fine line here, because I don't 100% disagree with what he's saying, because I think that even before all the money and everything was involved in college athletics, there was a lot of people that had bad mentors or bad people in their corner that are telling them, like, hey, you got to transfer, you got to get more shots up, you got to do this. And now with the money involved, those circles kind of get a little bit bigger, and you got more voices in your head. And, these guys are making money now, so they probably do think that better than they are. But, I think that that's the kind of stuff, if you want to call somebody out and try and motivate them, that's one thing. But to just look at all of them and say, like, hey, you guys are all trash, what am I even doing here? Like, do that behind closed doors. Do that with your assistant coaches. Try and figure it out in that way. But to come out here and just blame everything on your players and your assistant coaches and say, no, everything I do is right, I got 500 wins, like that part of it, he lost me on.
Yeah, I'll say this, right? Mick Cronin's a guy that's built his reputation on being a tough defensive coach, a physical defensive coach. They're going to beat you up. They're going to force turnovers. They're going to win the war on the glass. That's just what they're going to do, right? They gave up 94 points in their own building to a Michigan team that is good, but it's still, we're not talking about like Auburn. We're not talking about them like we're not talking about like we're talking about Illinois. Like, it's not Duke coming into that building. It's not UConn from last year. It's a good Michigan team, and you gave up 94, and you kind of rolled over and died at the end. And
he
so
had
I
every right
understand
to call him out. He had every right to call him out. Every right to call him out.
Because it was man.
61% from the floor and 54 from three, and giving up 94 points is hard to freaking do. It's hard to do. So I don't have a problem with that. I just think when you step aside and kind of remove yourself from it, like you had nothing to do with that. And like I said, and then like I mentioned about the assistants and stuff like that. If they don't speak up, then because you're not delegating, you're not giving them stuff and allowing them to speak up. So they're just coming in there every day and they're waiting on you to give them a piece of paper, telling them what to do and how to do it, and then they're just doing it. And if you're going to make that comment, because that's if you're not doing it, then you wouldn't have made that comment, because that's the only thing I had a problem with. But giving up 94 points. What do you expect? He should have called him out.
They gave up 94
Kenny.
points and only had 6 turnovers. UCLA only had 6 turnovers. You know how dominant you have to be in the half court to only give up 6 turnovers and 94 points? That's insane.
Look at your splits, 60 and 50. I mean, come on, man. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
Hey, Randolph, you've been in recruiting circles. You've been recruited. You've played at that level. Is this something that you think will impact him? Like, is this going to be sent around to AAU coaches, or is recruiting just at this point, like, whoever's got the bag, you're chasing the bag, and the relationship part doesn't even matter? Like, does this have any long-term?
He's done this before, right? He's done this before, and his team is even better. His team is better than it was when he did it the last time. So I don't think any of this affect. Man, listen, one, he's a hell of a coach. Let's just call it what it is. The dude can flat out coach. He can coach. I don't think there's any question, any doubt about that. I don't like the comments that he made necessarily about his staff. I'm cool with him calling out his team, because that is soft. But I would like to see him take more ownership of himself and not exclude himself. But shit, I mean, it's who he is and how he is. It's some of the stuff. It's like Hurley. When you win enough, and part of it is you win enough and you're tired of some of this shit, you just say whatever you want. Like, he's probably tired of this. He can't. There's no way you can tell me Mick Cronin, the way he coaches, as tough as he is and what he's about, wants to put up with this NIL and all of the BS that's coming along with it and dealing with stuff like that. I know he don't. He's doing it because he still loves to coach or whatever, but he ain't enjoying dealing with this BS. I know he's still going to do his job, and he's a hell of a coach in doing it. And I expect him to continue. I expect
He
UCLA to
went to
finish their
Hollywood. What do you expect, man? He went to LA. Get him back to the Midwest. Let's get him back.
He was in Cincinnati, dude. Ain't nobody's turning down that check to go to LA and living in damn Cincinnati.
Wow.
Well, you wouldn't want to get out of LA now.
Wow.
Hey, if you ain't born and raised there, you sure as hell don't want to sit there and be like, oh, I'm going to stay in Cincinnati. Like, cut it out. Ain't no disrespect. It's just the truth. You got to be born there. If you ain't born from Cincinnati, nobody's like, oh, shit, man, let's go to Cincinnati. I saw a nice, let's live on the lake. Like,
let me go put some cinnamon chili on my spaghetti. Yeah, that's exactly what we need. We're just destroying everything Kenny Frease is about right now. All right, Kenny, I'm going to end it with this. The more surprising person that is only 53 years old, Mick Cronin or Jeff Goodman?
It is Jeff for me, only because I knew how old Mick was when I played. So it's not really that big of a deal for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Listen, we got a break. When we get back, the SEC went wild. It feels like this is going to be a constant theme on After Dark. Like the SEC just goes crazy. Texas A&M comes back and beats a dude that hit 9 threes in a game. Alabama looks unbelievable, and Ole Miss goes on the road and gets a win. And what was supposed to be the best home court in the SEC? That's coming up next. There is no sport in America that is more difficult to follow than college basketball. It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for injury updates, recruiting news, and transfer portal additions that actually matter. For just $50 a year, get access to the same information that your favorite team's coaching staff is subscribed for. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help you with that. Would you be surprised to find out that the Field of 68 is home to more than 35 podcasts? More than 25 team-specific podcasts that are hosted by the people that know what fans want the most. The Goodman and Humble podcast, the DTF podcast, the A10 Insider podcast, and the Mountain West podcast. But wait, there's even more. The Field of 68 will be launching the ACC Insider podcast this year. Subscribe to this channel and come along for the ride. Welcome back. Wednesday evening edition, Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Kenny Frease, Randolph, Childress. We are headed down south. We are headed to the SEC, and we are going to start actually in Columbia, South Carolina, where Alabama goes on the road, knocks off South Carolina 88-68. It's their 4th straight win by 20-plus points. And Randolph, I'll start with you, man. They only took 19 threes tonight. I said this the other day with T.O. I'm really impressed with Alabama's ability to be a top 5 offense, given the fact that more than 50% of their field goal attempts come from beyond the arc. They shoot 31% from 3 as a team, and the guy that's their best 3-point shooter, Latrell Wrightsell, has done it for the year with an Achilles injury. They only took 19 threes tonight. At what point should we go back to talking about Alabama as like that same kind of tier as Auburn, that same tier as Duke, as one of like the best? And I'm not talking like top 10. I'm talking like top 3, 4, 5 teams, because I'm kind of getting to that point where I think that they belong up there, maybe above a Florida or a Tennessee or an Iowa State or a Houston.
For me, they were there at the start, and they've been that way all the way through the season. I would never be off this team unless you're telling me they get decimated with injuries. They're so unselfish. They're so well coached. They're fun to watch. The only thing I think they get in trouble is when they just start forcing threes and they stop attacking the paint. Once they made that adjustment to me and they start attacking the paint, accepting some twos and shooting a better percentage from 3, if they shoot upper 30s to 40% from 3, you're not beating them. You're not beating them.
No,
I think
no.
they bail you out by launching so many threes, and particularly some of the guys that's just not really effective in doing so. That's not their strong suit. They're just shooting them because that's part of the system and the development. If the right guys are taking the right shots for them, I think they're as good as any team in the country. I'm high on them. Them in Florida and Auburn, I think are. I don't think there's many teams better than them. And I'd add Duke, and then I'd add Tennessee into that. And I think after that, I think everyone else starts the list.
Yeah, here's the thing for me, Kenny. When you look at this Alabama team, right? You look at their starting lineup: Mark Sears, All-American caliber dude; LeBaron Filan, guy that's put himself in like squarely in the first round pick conversation. You know about the potential that Jaron Stevenson has. We know how good Cliff Amari is, and we know what Grant Nelson has been. Right? Look at their bench, man. Then you got Chris Youngblood, who was all everything in the AAC last year at South Florida. You got Aiden Holloway, who was a McDonald's All-American and has changed games with his three-point shooting. Darian Reed has been really good. Mo Diabate is the reason that they beat Houston. He went out there and out-toughed Houston. And oh, by the way, Aiden Sherrill and Houston Millette are both guys that are like, they legitimately have 11 dudes that are good enough to be rotation players on a team that's this good in the SEC, and they already lost the trail, right? So, like, the depth of this group is ridiculous.
Yeah, and you guys talk about it a lot. I'm not as big on, needing to have that go-to guy to go out and really win a lot of basketball games as a lot of my peers here on the field of 68. But I think if Mark Sears is able to be as efficient as he was today, and those guys fall in line with their roles, and like you're talking about what they need to do. I mean, Sears 7 for 12, 4 for 6 from 3, scores 22 points. I mean, you're scoring 22 points on 12 shots and 5 free throws. Like, that's a super efficient way to get the job done. Those are kind of like big man numbers. You're only getting up 12 points and scoring 20 points, or 12 shots and scoring 20 points. Like, if you're able to do that from 3, they're going to be difficult to beat with all the other pieces that they have.
Yeah, they're a buzzsaw when they get rolling, and it's a lot of fun to watch them when they get rolling. Elsewhere in the SEC, Ole Miss goes on the road, takes care of Arkansas. The final score in that game was 73-66. Ole Miss was down early. I saw the score where they were down by 10 at one point in the first half. Malik Dia had 21 points. To me, the big story here is Arkansas, guys. And I don't mean to keep banging the same drum. And sometimes I kind of feel bad that I feel like all I am is negative towards Arkansas. But, like, Kenny, I have very high expectations for a team that has this level of talent. And it just feels like you go out and you get John Calipari to be able to do things like turn Bud Walton Arena into an absolute fortress. And you got Ole Miss coming in and beating you in your old building when you had a double-digit lead in the first half. Like, I don't know where to go from here from Arkansas, because I thought that they could be in that same conversation with like a Kentucky as one of the best teams, or an Ole Miss as one of the best teams in the SEC, and it doesn't feel like they're there right now.
Very first show I did was the Arkansas Baylor game, and you guys we were having this same exact conversation, whatever it was, 2 months ago. Like, are they for real? And they have pretty much every time they come up and they run up to a good team, other than Michigan, they've lost. And some of them have been close games, some of them haven't. But you kind of start wondering, are they able to get over that hump and beat these good teams? Do I think that they have the talent to win? Of course I do. I think they can shoot the ball. I think, like, defensively they're really good, but they haven't been able to prove it to us yet in the games that matter.
Randolph?
I in that league, they're going to struggle. I don't know if they have anyone outside of DeJuan Wagner that's capable of defending the basketball off the bounce. And they got absolutely nothing tonight from their front line. Their bigs were just there. And I'm not saying it's their fault. I don't think we're questioning their talent, but they were not involved in this game. And Ole Miss, is junks the game up. They play, they defend, they're tough, shoot a lot of middies and drives, and they're a good team as well. Make no mistake about it. But this is what we talked about when you just mentioned about having a dude. Having a guy can help you with games like this, and they're relying on a freshman. And right now it looks like if Boogie Fland struggles, they struggle. And when you rely on a freshman to be your guy, I thought John L. Davis was going to be that guy, and he's not that guy for Arkansas right now. So it's going to be a long year right now. I don't see how this gets fixed. I think, I would love to be optimistic and say on a normal year, I'd be like, oh, I wouldn't worry about it. But this year in that league, I'm worried about them because I don't know how they fix this, because I don't see the team that can, some of the issues I don't want to, from Kentucky that we're watching, is defensive issues of guarding the basketball are starting to surface again in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. I'm out on them. They got Florida coming up next at home. I don't see them beating Florida. That'll be an 0-3 start in the SEC with 2 home losses. And I just don't know how you bounce back from that in this conference, right? And after you play Florida at home, you got to go at LSU and at Missouri. And I don't know if either of those programs are world beaters, but Ken Palm right now has both of those as losses for Arkansas. And
Rob, let's call it what it is. That Florida game is a must-win game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they got to win that Florida game. Come hell or high water, however you do it, you got to figure out a way. If you want to have a win that validates to say that, hey, we're going to figure this out, they need to find a way to win that game. Like, they have to come out and win that Florida game. At home,
you don't
figure it. You fall 0-3 in that league, you're not. They're not that talented that they're going to run off 6 or 7 in that league. It's just the league is too hard. I don't know if any team in that league will run off that many.
Yeah, with 2 home losses too. That's just you can't do that. And we've seen it. And I'm sorry to do this to you, Kenny. Like, we see it with Xavier. Like, you stack a couple of those losses in a row, and you have people that aren't really they don't have that connection to the university to keep fighting. It's like, what am I doing here? Let me go get out here, cash my next check, and
checks are still coming, man.
Yeah, that's what.
Hey, that's why you need a dude. That's why you need a dude.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that.
That's when you in a situation like this, you can be like, man, get a ball to this dude and just get out the way. That's the play.
Yeah, that was too Holloway for me, man.
Yeah. At what point does NIL go away from pay for play and turn into pay for playing well and only for playing well? Let's talk about Texas A&M here, because Texas A&M goes on the road, digging themselves a big hole against Oklahoma, and they're playing without Wade Taylor. Zurich Phelps, 34 points, 11 for 25 from the floor, 6 of 10 from 3. And he hit the game-winning shot with about 8 seconds left, buried a 3 to give A&M an 80-78 win at Oklahoma. I don't want to dive too deep into Oklahoma. I think that they were frauds, and I think that that's kind of been proven a little bit. Frauds, that's too strong. I think that their 13-0 record was a little bit inflated. I feel like we're not talking enough about Texas A&M, guys. Like, this is a team that is now sitting here at 13-2. They've won 13 of their last 14 games, and they can win a game on the road against the top 25 team and do it without the guy that was their best player. RC, are we forgetting about the buzzsaw over here? Do we need to start putting a little bit of respect on Buzz Williams' name?
One is because we're accustomed to this team struggling early in the year and then coming on strong, and we were kind of waiting on it. We were kind of waiting, like, okay, here we go. They're going to struggle, and they just haven't. And give credit to Buzz, man. I mean, people, was calling for them. They were trying to run them out of town. And this team is just, they're going to defend. They're going to junk the game up. To win a game like this without Wade Taylor is big, because I thought this year he has been playing as well as he had been playing there. He's not taking those crazy-ass shots. He's actually playing under control. And then Phelps today, my God. I mean, the dagger he hit for 3, this was a hell of a win. And I'm not out on Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's a good team. This was just something that Texas A&M, Goodine came out, shot the lights out, and they just kept sticking around. When you allow them to get to the free throw line and offensive rebound, they're going to be in every game because of that. They don't have to shoot it pretty. And then they get a performance like they get from either Wade, Taylor, Phelps, or any of these guards, then they got a hell of a chance to win any game, because they're going to defend, they're going to offensive rebound, they're going to get to the free throw line. They just going to junk the game up. And when they get one of these guys that has one of these 25, 30-point performances that they're capable of, then they can beat anybody. And A&M, we've never talked about them winning the SEC, but if they're going to get these type of performances in big games on the road, then you got to talk about them. You have to, and credit the Buzz for getting these guys going because they've struggled. They've always finished strong, but they struggled early, and this year they've come out and they've stepped up to the plate. Credit to these guys, man. It's a long way to go in that league. We know that, but Aggies, man, they're the real deal. They're just not pretty.
Look, that's Buzz. Nothing about Buzz Williams has ever been pretty, except his suits. He has nice suits.
Pretty.
Kenny, you got anything on Texas A&M?
Just that in a league like this where the teams are so bunched up together at the top, being able to come out and win a 2-point game is,
On the
I mean,
road.
it's on the road. I mean, like knowing how to win, exactly what we were talking about with Xavier. Like these guys, they went into a hostile environment and they won a close game, and that's not an easy thing to do.
All right. Let's get to toast of the night, and then let's get to bed because I'm tired, man. I brought my kids out to a Villanova UConn game. There was some tears on the way home. My son did get a picture with Solo Ball. He met Aiden Mahaney and met Jalen Stewart. So a loss turned into on Cloud 9. Also, shout out to Eric Dixon because my daughter walked up wearing like a UConn shirt, and he gave her a high five despite the fact that she had a UConn shirt on after the game. So that was pretty cool. Shout out to him. Toast of the night, Kenny. What do you got?
I know that they lost, but my toast of the night is to the Notre Dame Irish. I don't think Touchdown Jesus could get me two big wins this week. So, we got Penn State coming up tomorrow. I'm excited for that one.
Kenny,
Hey.
the whole Penn State Notre Dame thing, I don't know how many people realize this. It is going to tear the state of New Jersey apart because I'm pretty sure the only people that exist in the state of New Jersey and Pennsylvania too. Shout out to Dagan Hughes, our producer. Pennsylvania, you're either a Penn State family or you're a Notre Dame family around here. Like there's really no in between, and I just feel like the seams of my community just ripping apart as we get closer to this game. So I think I'm going to have to be on the Notre Dame bandwagon here. Shout out to Christian Hackenberg. We worked with him on the field of 12, but I think I got to be on the Notre Dame bandwagon here. Rudy, right? RC, toast of the night. Who you got?
Hey, you know what? My toast of the night is going to be Virginia. Not because of anything special. It's because it's halftime. It's after midnight, and they're at halftime of a game. They hadn't even started. So, I don't know. We know it's a whole nother conversation. We're not going into this alignment. But this Wednesday game, for those teams traveling out west, you have to be at halftime, and it's going on 12:15 in the morning, and you got to come out the locker room and play a game. So good luck to you Wahoos. Best of luck. I don't know how you do it. Cheers to any team that has to go out and do that.
Yeah, cheers to that, man. They're gonna have a long night. Were you here for the conversation about Stanford's flight home
No.
They had a regional jet. They had to stop for gas twice on the way home from their flight east or their games back east, and they left at, I think, going to put this out. They left at like 12:45 a.m. after was it at I think they played at Clemson on a Sunday and didn't land back in Palo Alto until like 5:45 a.m. It ended up being like an 8-hour long travel day with 2 stops on a regional jet with a bunch of 7-footers. No, thank you. My toast of the night is going to go out to the St. Louis Billikens. Did not have a great start to the season. We're 7-6 heading into league play, dealt with some injuries, but they picked up a win tonight at home over the previously 14-1 St. Bonaventure Bonnies, the Fighting Adrian Wojnarowskis, and are now sitting there 3-0 at the top of the A10 with now a 2-game lead over Dayton after Dayton fell at UMass tonight. So Frank Martin, big win, but toast to Josh Schertz, to the man Robbie Avila, and Gibson Jimerson at 28 tonight. So cheers to St. Louis. Listen, this was a fun episode, guys. I needed a little bit of a pick me up after dealing with having to watch in person UConn take a loss.
Watching UConn loss, man. That's why you just disappointed UConn loss.
Yeah. Hey, we should give a toast tonight to Alex Caravan because he's gonna have to drink that one off, man. He needs a stiff one to shake that one off, man. So for Kenny Frease, for Randolph Childress, my name is Rob Dauster. I believe that we're going to be off until Saturday. in large part due to the fact that our producer, Dagan Hughes, cares way more about Notre Dame than he does about his actual job, and kind of just said, we're not doing a show while Notre Dame and Penn State are playing. So we'll see you guys on Saturday night. Until then, go Irish, right, Kenny?
Yes, sir.